Okay, so today we're really going to zero in on Tesla as it stands today, March 22nd, 2025.
Okay.
And you've given me some really interesting information here about a company that's obviously much more than just electric vehicles now.
Yep.
They're really operating on a lot of different fronts:
Mm-hmm.
electric vehicles, energy AI,
Right.
and more. And so I think our mission today is really to kind of cut through all the hype and really kind of distill what we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
in 2025 about what makes Tesla such a,
Force.
yeah, a force in the world today.
Yeah.
And so I think what we'll do is kind of trace its evolution from its beginnings. How did it start?
Yeah.
Talk about the impact it's had on the EV revolution,
Okay.
explore its energy and infrastructure initiatives,
Right.
look at the technology it's working on with self-driving and AI.
Sure.
Elon Musk is a huge part of the story, so we need to talk about
Of course. Yeah.
his influence.
Okay.
Talk about the competitive landscape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not alone anymore, as we know.
Right.
And then try to look forward a little bit and see
Sure.
what we think the future might hold.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that jumps out to me from the stuff you sent me is just the breadth
Yes.
of Tesla's ambition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we said, it's not just about cars.
Right.
And really try and get a sense of how these different pieces all fit together
Yeah.
to create this modern Tesla in 2025.
Yeah. And you've given me some sources that really highlight this journey from, a pretty niche company making high-performance sports cars to this global force.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, before.
yeah, so get ready because we're going to unpack some pretty interesting developments.
Yeah.
And try to really understand the technologies driving this transformation
Yeah.
and what this means for the future of how we get around and
Yeah.
how we power our lives.
Okay.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Where did the Tesla story begin? Well, the interesting thing is that Tesla's actual genesis back in 2003
Okay.
wasn't Elon Musk at all.
Right.
It was actually two guys, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning.
Okay.
And they had this vision of sustainable transportation.
Okay.
And really, at that point, their goal was to show that electric cars could be both desirable and high-performing,
Okay.
and really change that perception that EVs were just about being green.
Right. So the initial idea was their sustainable transport without sacrificing, the fun.
Yeah, the performance.
Yeah, the performance of driving.
Exactly.
And then Elon Musk kind of enters the scene.
He does.
That wasn't right at the start, was it?
No, not right at the start. So Elon Musk joined in 2004
Okay.
as a major investor
Right.
and became the chairman of the company.
Right.
So his involvement really marked, I think, a pretty critical moment for the company because he brought not just this capital,
Mm-hmm.
but this very ambitious and future-oriented strategic kind of
Vision.
vision.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And then that vision, I think, started to materialize with the 2008 Roadster.
Yes.
And looking back, it's easy to forget how groundbreaking that car was
Oh, absolutely.
at the time.
I mean, the 2008 Roadster was really important, I think, in terms of changing public perception
yeah.
of EVs. Because
Right.
before that,
They were kind of?
yeah, they were kind of like slow and not very practical
Yeah, golf carts.
and not exciting, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Roadster came along, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds,
Yeah.
over 200 miles of range.
Yeah.
So it just completely refuted that idea
yeah,
that electric had to be, boring.
right. It was a real statement, wasn't it?
It was.
But they didn't have all, smooth sailing those first few years, did they?
No, 2008 was a very difficult year for Tesla.
Yeah.
They had financial pressures, production difficulties. It seems like they were very close to going bankrupt.
Wow.
And so this is where Elon Musk made another crucial decision,
Okay.
and he invested even more money. Really doubled down on his belief in the company. And this was really the lifeline they needed
To survive.
to survive.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a gamble that
it was a huge gamble,
Yeah.
but obviously paid off.
Yeah, because then just a few years later, 2012, we see the Model S.
Yeah,
And this feels like another turning point for Tesla,
it does.
kind of moving them from that niche market into the mainstream conversation.
Yeah, because the 2012 Model S was a real disruptor. I mean, this
Yeah.
wasn't just an electric car.
Right.
It was a tech-forward car
Right.
with great performance and range cutting-edge features.
The big screen.
Big screen, yeah, over-the-ear software updates.
Yeah,
These things were revolutionary at the time for the car industry.
totally.
And it really established Tesla, I think, as a major player
Yeah.
and set a new standard for what a modern car could be.
Yeah, and from there, I mean, the growth has been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, by 2025, these sources are saying millions of vehicles
Millions.
sold worldwide.
Yeah.
It's a pretty incredible journey.
It's a really remarkable trajectory.
Yeah.
To go from this small startup with this ambitious idea to this global automotive and energy giant in a couple of decades. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so let's talk about that impact, the EV revolution.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty undeniable that Tesla's been a huge part of making electric vehicles mainstream.
Absolutely. And I think it's more than just building the cars, right?
Yeah.
They've created a desirable brand around it. They built this whole ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
The charging, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really pushed other car companies to take EVs seriously.
Right.
And speed up their own efforts.
So where do they stand in 2025 in terms of market share?
Okay.
Are they still top dog?
It's definitely gotten more competitive.
Yeah.
But the data shows that Tesla's still a leader in the EV market.
Okay.
Over the past year, EVs have made up more than 20% of new car sales globally.
Wow.
And Tesla has a big chunk of that in a lot of key regions.
And I mean, the Model 3 and the Model Y, you see them everywhere now.
Yeah, you see them everywhere.
I mean, they've reached a level of,
ubiquity.
yeah, and aspiration.
Aspiration, yeah.
That not a lot of vehicles get to.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point, right?
Yeah.
It's not just transportation, it's a status symbol.
It's like the iPhone of cars.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the design, the performance, the technology, it just resonates with people.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because you gave me these sources, and they also highlight these very divided opinions on Tesla. Like, you have these diehard fans.
They're super fans.
Yeah, super fans, versus these people who are very skeptical.
The skeptics.
Especially about the company's valuation and all the hype.
Right. Well, and I think both sides have points, right?
Yeah.
The super fans, they focus on the innovation, the long-term potential, the mission-driven approach. But the skeptics, they're worried about the valuation compared to their earnings.
Right.
How they're going to pull off these ambitious projects like self-driving and the influence of Elon Musk's sometimes unpredictable actions.
Sure.
So both viewpoints have some merit.
Yeah, so to build all these cars, they've had to really ramp up their production capacity.
Right.
And we've seen these gigafactories pop up.
Gigafactories, yeah.
All over the world, Shanghai, Berlin, Texas. What's the status of those?
Okay, so the gigafactories are absolutely essential to Tesla's strategy.
Okay.
The one in Shanghai, that's a huge production hub, they're making more than 1 million cars a year there.
1 million cars a year?
1 million cars a year.
Wow.
The Berlin Gigafactory is scaling up, but it's had some
pushback.
Yeah, some environmental concerns and local opposition.
Okay.
And then Texas, the one in Texas that's really interesting.
Okay.
They're building cars, they're making batteries there, and they're developing new technologies like the 468 battery cells.
Right. And then let's talk about those 468 battery cells for a second. Because they've been, touted as a potential game changer.
Yeah.
So what makes those so special, and where are they at in terms of production in 2025?
So the 4680 cells are much bigger and more efficient than Tesla's old batteries.
Okay.
And basically this means you can pack more energy into the same space.
Okay.
Which means more range for the cars.
Okay.
But they're also designed to be cheaper to produce.
Which is important.
Which is really important.
Yeah.
Potentially bringing down the cost of the cars.
Okay.
Now, ramping up production was a bit tricky at first.
Yeah.
But it seems like in 2025, they're hitting decent production numbers.
Okay.
Which is contributing to these longer ranges.
Yeah.
Some models are getting over 400 miles on a single charge now.
Wow.
And it's helping Tesla control their costs.
Okay. And so do you think other companies are going to start moving towards these larger battery formats?
I think it's likely.
Yeah.
I mean, the benefits are clear, right? More energy density, less complexity. So it's going to put pressure on the competition to innovate.
So we've talked a lot about the cars, but they're also making big moves in other areas like Tesla Energy.
Yes.
Which often gets overshadowed by the car business.
Right. It doesn't get as much attention. But Tesla Energy is a big deal.
Yeah.
It includes things like the Powerwall for home energy storage.
Right.
And the Megapack for utility-scale grid storage.
Okay.
And 2025 has seen record deployments for both of these.
Really?
Yeah. So it's clearly a growing and important part of Tesla's business.
And the Powerwall in particular seems to be getting a lot of traction, especially when you combine it with the solar roof.
That's a powerful combination,
Yeah.
especially in places with high energy costs like California,
Sure.
because homeowners can generate their own energy, store it,
Yeah.
and become less reliant on the grid.
Be more independent.
Be more independent, exactly.
Yeah.
And have backup power during outages.
And the solar roof itself, I mean, it's much more aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
than those traditional solar panels.
Much more integrated.
Yeah. So how's the adoption been?
So it's been a bit slower than the EVs,
Okay.
but the growth has been steady.
Okay.
People like that looks good.
Yeah.
And as they get better at installing them and maybe costs come down,
Yeah.
I think we'll see it really take off.
And on that utility scale with the megapack,
Yeah.
I mean, that seems so important for the transition to renewable energy
Yeah, it's crucial.
because wind and solar, they're not always reliable.
Right, they're intermittent.
Yeah.
So the mega pack can store all that extra energy
Okay.
and then release it when it's needed.
So it smooths out the supply.
Smooths it out, keeps the grid stable.
That's really important.
Yeah, and we're seeing examples of these mega packs making a real difference for utilities.
Yeah.
In terms of grid reliability.
Okay, and then the supercharger network. I mean, that's almost like this fundamental piece of infrastructure
Right.
for EV adoption.
It's a huge asset for Tesla.
And they built it
They built it from scratch.
from scratch.
Thousands of fast charging stations all over the world,
Yeah.
which makes long trips in a Tesla totally feasible.
Yeah, and they've started opening it up to other brands now in 2025.
They have.
What's the thinking behind that?
Well, I think it's a few things.
Okay.
First, it brings in money
Sure.
from non-Tesla owners.
Okay.
Second, it helps get more EVs on the road in general,
Right. Which is good for everybody.
which is good for everybody.
Yeah.
But they're still giving Tesla owners some perks
Okay.
to make sure they have a good charging experience.
So it's kind of a balancing act.
It is a balancing act.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the tech side of things.
Okay.
Specifically, full self-driving FSD.
All right.
This has been a long time coming.
It has.
So where are they at in March of 2025?
Okay, so FSD is one of the most ambitious and closely watched things that Tesla's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's come a long way by 2025.
Okay.
It can handle a lot more driving scenarios now. Highways, city streets, complex intersections.
Okay.
But it's really important to understand it's not fully autonomous yet.
So you still have to pay attention.
Absolutely. Drivers still need to be ready to take over.
Okay.
It's still under a lot of scrutiny from regulators in different places.
Okay, so like, let's say unprotected left turns in heavy traffic.
Yeah, that can still be tricky
Okay.
to get the system to handle that perfectly every time.
Now, their approach to FSD is pretty different from other companies.
Yeah, it is.
They're relying a lot on real-world data.
Right. They're using data from their millions of cars
Yeah.
that are out there driving around.
With the cameras and sensors and
Exactly. They have cameras and sensors collecting tons of data,
Yeah.
and they use all that data to train their AI algorithms.
Okay.
So it's this constant feedback loop that helps the system get better and better.
And so how does that compare to like a Waymo, for example?
So Waymo, they're focusing on what they call geofenced robotaxis.
Right.
So they're trying to build fully autonomous cars that operates in very specific mapped areas.
Okay.
Tesla's trying to do something much broader.
Yeah.
They want autonomous driving everywhere.
Right. So one is very limited.
Yes.
And the other is,
Everywhere.
yeah, much wider.
Yeah.
And now we have things like Summon,
Right.
where you can call your car from the parking lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good example of how far FSD's come.
Yeah.
You know, being able to remotely control the car
Yeah.
and navigate it through a parking lot.
It's pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
But we keep hearing full self-driving is just around the corner.
I know, next year.
Yeah. Is 2025 the year?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but 2025 could be a really big year for FSD.
Yeah.
The AI is getting better. They have more data than ever.
Hmm.
And there might be some regulatory changes that help things along.
Okay. And then beyond FSD, there's the Tesla bot.
Optimus. Yeah.
Yeah. This feels like science fiction.
It does.
So where are they at with that?
So Optimus is still early stage.
Oh.
They've shown some prototypes.
Okay.
They can walk and pick things up.
So basic stuff.
Basic stuff.
Yeah.
They're a long way from having a robot that can do complex tasks on its own.
Right.
But it shows that Tesla wants to use this AI and robotics know-how for more than just cars.
Yeah.
So do you think that they can actually pull this off?
Well, I mean, getting a robot to work in a lab is one thing.
Yeah.
But the real world is a lot messier.
It is.
Yeah. And then there's the whole safety aspect of
Yeah.
having robots interacting with humans.
That's a big one.
So, yeah. I mean, it's a very ambitious project.
Very ambitious.
And you can't talk about Tesla without talking about Elon Musk.
Right. He's more than just a CEO.
Yeah.
He's a global figure at this point.
Yeah.
There's no question he's the driving force behind Tesla's innovation
Yeah.
and their strategy.
And he's really good at getting people excited.
Yeah, he can articulate a vision
Mm-hmm.
and generate buzz like nobody else.
Yeah. And his social media presence
No, it's
is
huge.
huge. I mean, his posts on X
Yeah.
can literally move the market.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me an example of that.
Yeah.
Where he just hinted at a potential affordable car called the Redwood,
Yeah.
and the stock jumped 5%
Just from a tweet.
just from a tweet.
That's power.
It is power,
But of course, that influence can also be negative.
of course.
I mean, he's been involved in lawsuits,
Mm-hmm.
regulatory scrutiny.
Right.
How does that affect Tesla?
Well, all that stuff can create uncertainty,
Yeah.
volatility for the company. I mean,
Yeah.
legal battles and investigations can distract management,
Sure.
potentially lead to fines and other consequences.
But so far, it seems like they've weathered the storm.
They have, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And then you have this very loyal fan base.
Almost cult-like.
Yeah. And I mean, that can be a good thing,
It can be a good thing.
but also maybe a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to have people who love your product,
Right.
you advocate for your brand, but it can also create an environment where any criticism is attacked
Yeah.
and where the company's success becomes very tied to one person,
To Elon.
to Elon,
Yeah. And we've seen examples of that.
like the Cybertruck delays.
Right.
Some of that was because Elon kept changing the design.
Right. Trying to perfect it.
Right. And while that's admirable, it can also make things harder.
Yeah.
And then his tweets have sometimes hurt the stock price.
Right. Right. So it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
Okay. So now they're facing more competition than ever.
Yeah, the EV market's getting crowded.
Yeah. So who are the main players?
Well, in China, BYD is huge.
Okay.
They make cheaper EVs,
Okay.
and they sell a ton of them.
Okay.
In the U.S., Rivian's making waves with their electric trucks and SUVs. And then you have the big traditional car companies like Ford and Volkswagen.
Right.
They're catching up.
Yeah. They're coming out with electric Mustangs, electric ID4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the competition is getting fierce.
So is Tesla's lead shrinking?
It's hard to say for sure,
Okay.
but they're definitely facing more pressure.
Yeah.
They still have a strong brand. They have the tech advantage
Mm-hmm.
and the supercharger network.
Right.
But the profit margins are going to get squeezed as more players come in.
Okay. So what are some of the other challenges that they're facing beyond just the competition?
Well, there's the regulatory stuff,
Right.
especially around self-driving
Mm-hmm.
and emission standards.
Okay.
The economy could slow down,
Right.
which would hurt demand for expensive cars.
Yeah.
And there are still supply chain issues.
Like chips and batteries.
Exactly.
I
Those
know.
things are still causing problems.
So let's look ahead a bit. Let's say 2030.
Okay.
Where do you see Tesla going?
I think a few things could happen.
Okay.
Robo-taxis could become a reality,
Okay.
which would totally change how we think about transportation and car ownership.
Yeah.
Tesla Energy could become even more important as we transition to sustainable energy.
Right.
They could be powering cities and infrastructure.
And what about Optimus?
Optimus is the wild card.
Yeah.
If they can make it work,
Yeah.
it could be $1 trillion business.
So you could have a Cybertruck taking you places,
Yeah.
a Tesla bot doing your chores,
Yeah.
and a power wall powering your house.
Yeah. That's the vision.
Wow.
But can they pull it off?
What are the key factors there?
Okay, so they need to deliver that affordable Redwood car
Okay.
to reach more customers.
Yeah.
They need to make full self-driving work reliably and get it approved by regulators.
Okay.
And they need to scale up their energy solutions.
Solar and batteries.
Solar and batteries, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the Tesla story is going to keep being interesting.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Lots of ups and downs.
Well, I think today's deep dive has really given us a good look at Tesla in 2025
Yeah.
from their, early days
Mm,
to where they are now a leader in EVs, energy, and AI.
right.
I think we've learned a lot about their technology, their leadership,
Their challenges.
and their challenges and the opportunities ahead.
What's really fascinating to me is how interconnected all their different businesses are.
Yeah.
You know, like the advancements in battery tech from the cars
Yeah.
are going to directly benefit their energy storage products.
Yeah.
So just think about their potential for unexpected innovations
Mhm.
as these fields of EVs, renewable energy, and AI all start to converge.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict what's next.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
I really encourage everybody listening to think about what aspects of Tesla's strategy
Hmm.
or their technology they find most interesting.
Yeah,
And keep exploring these topics.
definitely.
Like this stuff is going to affect all of us in the years to come.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Tesla.
It's been a pleasure.